Live.
Hey,
How's it going, dude?
good. And yourself?
Good.
Awesome. So where
It's
are you? I
definitely.
don't recognize the brick wall behind you.
I am. I'm in a co-working spot, close to home. It's really convenient. It's just nice to kind of kill a commute and stuff. But yeah, I feel bad kind of ragging on the place because they're really nice here, and it's actually a really nice place. And I'm in a conference room right now, so it's nice and quiet. But I don't know, co-working it's not my favorite thing to do. I don't really like co-working.
What's up with it? Like, what bugs you about it? And you don't have to
It's
say the name of the place. Obviously, we're not trying to.
Yeah, and I would still promote this place. It's a nice place. I have a membership to Desk Pass
Yep.
in Chicago, which gives me access to all these different co-working spots in Chicago. There's I recommend it. It's a really affordable way of kind of getting if you want to get out of the house or stop working at home. But my problem is, and I guess this is just some constructive criticism that I wish more of these places had, was spaces. I mean, a lot of us are just working in an open room at shared desks, and there's people that join these things that don't kind of get the gist that we're in an open space together. So when you're on the phone with your coworkers and you're in a meeting, and none of us have like a shared objective, like we're all working on our own thing. It makes it even worse that I don't want to hear your noise. I don't want to hear what's going on. I don't want to hear you on sales calls all day. If you have a private office, please close the door. If you, treat it like a library, or find a conference room like I'm in where I can have a conversation and not disrupt everybody. And I feel like that has to be, if it's happening, I feel like the good co-working places have managers who are kind of watching for that behavior and correcting for it, or trying to manage it better, reminding if we have rooms where you could have a meeting, please schedule this with me. Then just sometimes people just don't get it. Yeah,
it's all the problems with open workspaces without the shared cultural. I think you can make open workspaces work if there's a shared cultural understanding around private spaces and concentration and people's attention and all that stuff. I've been thinking a lot about this. I've been giving a talk at the Lean Startup Conference in San Francisco. I've been meaning to write this stuff up, but I'm going to give a talk first, then I'm going to write it up afterwards. This idea that I've tweeted about a little bit, but that the most important thing a company, I'm starting to believe one of the most important things a company can do is preserve and protect its employees' intention, basically. So attention is the medium that we work in. It's sort of you swim in water, or you work in attention. And if the attention's really choppy, it's very hard to just focus. It's just very hard to work. And also when someone else takes your attention away from you, takes your water away from you, it's just very difficult to move forward and get stuff done. And this is a little bit of an abstract idea, but at least in this metaphor I'm providing. But so I think it's very important to do that. And co-working spaces typically wouldn't do that because they don't have that shared. Maybe one would. Maybe if someone opened a co-working space called the library, called quiet space or something, that would be an interesting sort of niche, because I feel like co-working spaces, the ones I've seen, are basically all the same, unless they have private offices, which is a little bit of a different layer. But quiet would be an interesting one, or maybe that's just why you go to the library instead. You can go work at a public library, I suppose, too. But anyway.
Yeah, I feel like it would be an interesting angle. And it's one I've talked about. If I wanted to become unfocused and it'd be an interesting challenge. I kind of like it, but I've talked about it with friends too. Wouldn't it be an interesting idea to launch a co-working spot? But that's the focus, privacy, quiet. You get to go here and get some of the benefits of even the communal stuff, because it's nice meeting a lot of the folks in these open spaces, but it has a time and a place. And I feel like I feel like, yeah, you could probably architect for something like this. I wouldn't mind sitting in a tiny room as long as there was some light, as long as it was like soundproof and kept me away from distraction, and then give me a communal spot to like hang out with everybody when I choose to do so. But when that's all you've got, it's like, it's impossible to get any work done.
Right.
Or good work done. Yeah.
Cool. Well, anyway,
how's your week going? Launching stuff this week we were talking about last week.
Yeah, we're going to roll out all these major Basecamp changes to 10% of the customer base tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Tomorrow morning, I think, but it kind of depends. And then roll the rest of it out to everybody next week. So we're ready to do it. Having all those, last minute, you have those like flashes of doubt and all that stuff that comes up like last minute, but it's all good and it's exciting. And like, I can't wait to get this stuff out. We've been working on it for about 10 weeks now. Feels great. And it demos really well so I feel good about it. Want to get it out there. Want to get it going. We're going to launch the new marketing site, new publicbasecamp.com site next week as well. And some business model changes for new customers, not existing customers, but new customers. So like a lot of stuff that we're going to be trying soon. So it's just, a few days away. So that'll be really fun. So I've been doing that. I'm giving a workshop tomorrow at our office, the Basecamp Way to Work workshop, which is like 5 hours of me talking. So it's just like, I got to get myself mentally charged up for that. It's a lot of work, but fun, really fun. We have about 30 some odd people showing up. We always sell 25 seats. And then we sell out, and then we released a few extras to people who really want to come. So that'll be fun. And that's what the week's been for me. Just
cool.
Kind of ready for tomorrow.
Cool. Marketing site wise, like just to this, or has it been locked in and this is how it's going to be?
What's that? This new site?
The marketing site changes.
Yeah.
Is that stuff locked in right now and you feel good about it, or stuff's still getting changed?
Stuff will still get changed. We just changed one of the major pages last night or yesterday around a little bit. We're still tweaking the copy and just changing things, last minute, but fundamentally this is what's going to launch. But we're already going to start working on the next version of it. So something I'd mentioned to you in the past is when you've been one of the real challenges, I think, is when you've been looking at something every day, dozens of times a day, reloading dozens and dozens and dozens of times a day as you tweak it and iterate and whatever. By the time you're ready to launch it, you're already sick of it. Now, it's because it's old to you, but it's not old to anybody else. So it's old to you. So you got to like sort of hold back your sort of like ready to move on already to the next one a little bit, because you have to realize no one else in the world's seen it yet. So it's going to be great. And I think it's really, I think it's the best one we've done in many, many years. So I'm excited to get it out there, but also want to start working on another iteration on it so we can do some A/B testing. We're going to A/B test the existing design against a couple of small variations or minor variations sort of. And then we're going to be working on some like radically different site designs as well, which we hope to start rolling out in a few weeks and A/B those and see how that does. We're going to be doing a lot of testing over the next few months because we've changed the way Basecamp is priced for new customers, and there's a lot of small subtle tweaks that we're going to try and see what works. So a lot of iteration and testing ahead of us.
I mean, I think
Do you ever get that? I mean, you're like you want to get it out. You're excited about like the design of the marketing sites. I'm mostly talking about the marketing site, not the product here, the marketing site. And then you sort of like, you're so used to it that you're like, is this even good? Is this even effective? Is this even, you kind of just look at the words and they start to become shapes, and it's very hard to read it and really evaluate it. You just kind of don't know. You're like, question I always have for myself is, like, something I've been thinking about doing. I talked to Adam, who's one of our designers here, about this, about on a couple of the pages putting a thing like, was there something like basically what didn't we tell you that you wanted to know? Or like, does this make any sense at all? Like, I'm so curious about like does this make any sense at all? Like the words, like if you read the sentences, they make sense. Like, but like, do you know what this product is? Are we making any sense? I'm just always curious about that. And it's sort of hard to get that answer from people, really. So I'm thinking about just asking it flat out. But anyway, always curious about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, like a bailout button. Like,
Yeah, like what?
Get me out of here. Why
Yeah,
did
like,
you want to
what?
leave?
Because most people, they'll just bounce or they'll
Yeah.
bail or whatever, and like you never really know why. You might be like, well, is the price too high, or is this? And you can have these like, there used to be these things where for years there's that little like plus icon inside the brackets that you could like expand and like do a survey, but that's not. I would never, if I was sitting next to somebody, I would never ask them 5 multiple choice questions. I'd be like, does this make any sense? And they'd be like, yeah, I get it. It's this, that, and the other. And then even their answer would tell me something. Like they might think it makes sense, but it might make sense not in the way I wanted it to make sense. Like I want to know the whys. I want to get to the, and it's hard to do this, but like that's what I always am wondering whenever we launch a new site. Just like, does this make any sense? Do you get this thing at all?
Yeah. Have you thought about, I mean, over the years, people have always fooled with like exit pop-ups, right? Like the terrible old days, you used to be able to hijack like like the unload event of your browser. And these days you can't do that anymore, right? Like Chrome and everything else is like put the kibosh on this. But like some people are doing back button. They'll put a tracker, they'll put JavaScript to track that the mouse crosses over like the top pixel of the browser window. I'm sure you've seen this.
I haven't seen that, but that's interesting. Okay.
So they'll track just that top pixel of the browser window, and as the mouse goes over to it, it's very unlikely. It's unlikely that the mouse is traveling that direction for a reason other than going somewhere else, right? Hitting the back button or typing in a new URL. And so a lot of people have been watching that event, and they'll pop up a div, they'll pop up not obviously an annoying alert box or whatever. I'm sure some people are. But the more kind of the more subtle versions are like, they'll pop a div that'll be like, talk to me, or, here's a free gift, something like that. But I'm curious if I wonder if the tone would actually be much better in what you're saying. Like, hey, it looks like we're losing you. Talk to me about why, like what happened. That's interesting.
Is this just not clear? Like what? I just want to know that reaction, And anyway, so that's that. So I'm always curious about that. But
yeah, and I get that feeling too, though. I think all creators do about that. Like you get this good idea, and by the time after you've looked at it and worked on it for months, it's shit. You think it's shit before you hit the publish button.
Yes,
I go through this over and over again. I've been filming this I've been filming these YouTube videos now on my personal YouTube channel, and it's like I work on this stuff, and when I'm thinking about it, it's like, oh, this is an interesting. It's like, I'd like to start over again, but you have to fight it and hit the publish button anyway, or you'll never be done. And use the energy to like do the next iteration, start the next story, revisit the thing if you want, but just not publish. Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. So anyway, I'm struggling with that a little bit, but it's normal. What's going on with you? What are you doing?
What are we doing? I don't know. So I've been thinking a lot about like a topic that keeps coming up, and this is just we think about it all the time, but it got a little bit more new life because Clayton Christensen has a new Jobs to be Done book out there again, revisiting the topic of jobs. Like, have you read his latest book? It just out.
I have it on my desk. I just got it. I've not dug into it yet. Yep, it's called Competing Against Luck or Competing with Luck.
Yeah. Yep. And it basically takes that nugget, that you've iterated, you've espoused and talked about a lot, the Jobs to be Done stuff, that it was like you've seen in some of his other books, but this, he just delves into it. I don't know, it's just some more thinking the past couple of weeks on, I don't know, we at High Rise, we keep getting, there's two things. One, I'll start with kind of like, the famous, no one usually talks about this one example, but it's my favorite example of the Jobs to be Done approach, which is like 5-hour energy. everybody knows this drink. It's like in all gas stations, at the cash register. And I really recommend like watching the stuff that, I don't know the CEO's name right now, but he's got some YouTube videos that are really good about talking about the business. And he's a very uncelebrated CEO, I think, in a lot of the startup circles and a lot of the web-based circles, because he's making an energy drink.
Right.
But when he got started, he had discovered this 5-Hour Energy at a trade show, and they were selling it as like a 12-ounce or 16-ounce energy drink. And the big aha moment he had was basically a jobs to be done moment, where he was like, the people that we're trying to sell this product to, they're trying to solve probably multiple jobs, but the thing that we're really good at is giving people energy, people who need a pick-me-up while they're driving. They're not also trying to fix their sense of thirst, or maybe not all of them are, but thirst, just want energy. So why are we trying to do both things? Like, let's stop competing with all the drinks in the drink aisle and in the the cold food section, and just focus on energy. And if we do that, we could go from 16 ounces to a 2-ounce shot and sell it at the cash register. And that was the big moment. And the story after that is like they're now over $1 billion company selling energy shots. Yeah.
It's so smart. Like when you just think about it, it's so smart, because liquid is just it's a delivery vehicle, but you just like, you assume. It's so funny. I never thought about it that way, which is like, I'm not thirsty. I'm just tired, or I'm, it's 3 o'clock and I need a something or whatever. Right. This is actually similar to me, like why I drink espresso and not coffee. I don't like coffee because I don't want a lot of it. Like I'm not thirsty for a cup of liquid. I want, like, I could throw back a couple sips and I'm good. I'm like espresso, like, it's the same thing, I guess, with the I've never had one of these 5-hour. I've seen them all over the place, little bottles and stuff. But yeah, like you walk in, you're like, I'm not thirsty. You just got some gas, maybe at the gas station. You walk in and you're going to pay, or maybe you're going to get some gum, or maybe you just want to use the bathroom or whatever. And you go to the register perhaps and like, oh yeah, I'm a little tired. Sure, whatever. I'll buy one of those and throw it back. It's such a smart idea. Like they need liquid to deliver it, but you don't need a lot of liquid.
Exactly.
Liquid. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very smart.
Yeah.
It's very smart.
And so I
love that stuff. That kind of stuff, just like those insights are so interesting to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we're spending a lot of time on it. I'm spending a lot of cycles on it, just because it's like these days, so much, it's amazing how much referral traffic we get from sites that are just talking about us with like dozens of others, if not hundreds of other CRM competitors. Like, and it's great. I don't want to like not get it, but it doesn't seem to be, that can't be our strongest foothold. Like we're just competing in the drink section still. And it's like, so it really just forces me to try to figure out like, one, are we in the correct 2-ounce container? Like, and I think in many ways we do. The way people talk about us, I really do feel like we're not, we've done a good job, and you guys have done a good job with where High Rise even started, like not just trying to be everybody else in the drink section. But I think we also have to put more effort to be like, well, then where do we sell ourselves? Like, we've got to stop just being in the lists. Like, we've got, it's not just SEO, it's not just articles. We've got to figure out like, how do we get ourselves to be somewhere else, like that makes more sense than just being in the drink section? Like, where is the counter for us? Like, where can we sell ourselves that just makes more sense in people's minds than in the drink section? And it's still kind of a vague thing I'm thinking about. But as you think about like who High Rise customers are, they're not people with 1,000 employees. They're like we've been doing a lot of like just analyzing who these new businesses are that are signing up, and it's just they're locksmiths. They're people selling like skincare supplies, like one person selling skincare. And they're not dealing with like the need for like artificial intelligence to help answer thousands of emails. Like their context is very different than us trying to compete with like Salesforce.
Sure.
That's a lot of the stuff I'm spending time with right now. And there's insight, but I want to be vague about it just because like I think we have some interesting ideas that I want to work on, but stuff that I want to wait until it's launched.
Yeah, I'd love to catch up with you about some of those. we're we're thinking this. We keep thinking the same thing. It's so hard. It's really hard to really figure out what it is, because there are quite a few jobs that the product can do, and so it's not even just about figuring out the job. It's the many jobs. Then, like, which one do you want to focus on, or which few do you want to focus on? Yeah, there's something we've discovered in some interviews we've been doing, which are, this isn't really a job. This isn't a job thing at all, because people start talking about this and they get it wrong also. So I don't want to use the language for the moment, but it's these moments. These moments where, I think we may have talked about this in the previous call, but people begin to look for something like Basecamp. Not everybody. Many people begin to look at something like Basecamp. When they hit this tipping point, it's just a few people. They have like 6 people or something, or they've hired their 6th or their 7th or their 8th person. They were small, but they're still small, but they were like 3 or 4 or 5 before, and they were just sort of cobbling together their own system of working, like mostly email, texts, in-person meetings, that kind of stuff. Like, they're just kind of, it's fine because they're winging it. They don't even know if they're going to exist in a year. Like, they're just winging it, right?
Yeah.
And then they hire their 6th or 7th person or 8th, something around that. And it's like, shit, this is for real now. We're doing better. We're taking on more work and we're hiring more people. We got to get our shit together, because winging it doesn't cut it anymore. It's not going to work anymore. Things are starting to slip. We're falling behind on some things. Me as the owner, I don't even know what the hell's going on anymore. There's too many people doing things that I'm not aware of. Or like, I'm the bottleneck. Everyone's coming to me to get answers. Like, I can't be the person, I can't be the clearinghouse of all this stuff. Like, we need a system now. And so I don't know what the job is there really, but it's these moments that come up in these calls. Whenever we talk to some small business owners, it's like everything was fine until about 5 or 6 or 7. And then, like, I couldn't handle it anymore. I needed a way. I needed to get all this stuff out of my head. I needed people to put stuff in a central place. We needed to have trackable work, so I knew what the hell was going on and who was doing what. And if I needed to follow up, I knew where to do it. Or like, we were sending around emails, and then we got our new employee, our 7th employee. And what am I supposed to forward them? Like hundreds of emails? Or like, how do I even do that? I don't even know how to do that. So these moments are very interesting. There's these small business moments that happen once you get past like the winging it phase. And so I'm trying to think about, like, we're kind of addressing this somewhat in the new site, and this is where I get frustrated with myself. I'm like, I know this exists, and we're not totally nailing the way we're talking about it, partially because you become a bit like, you become nervous about going after something that's very specific. You're like, if I just talk about that and you don't have that situation, then we're not for you anymore. And so this is a really difficult thing to do. But this moment's very real, and we're talking about it a little bit more, but I want to get into it more and more and talk about this more. And there's something really special and interesting about it. So anyway, so I understand what we're going through similar things, and it's a good exercise. It's frustrating though. I find it really frustrating, but it's good. It's good.
I do too. And it's like, I mean, it's like, I
get frustrated about being too narrow, I guess, is what I get frustrated about. Like, I know we could completely nail this situation, and hey, frankly, maybe this is the biggest market there is, which is small businesses anyway are the biggest market there is. And a lot of people are switching from winging it. Like, we should be talking about the headline should be like, stop winging it. Or like, if you've been winging it, it's not cutting anymore, like Basecamp or whatever. I don't know. That whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep. That whole thing, like that whole angle, we're kind of sort of getting to it in the new site, but not totally, but because we're kind of hedging a little bit, which is maybe okay. These are these things I'm always, that are like giving me headaches sometimes when I'm just thinking them through. So anyway.
I know. I mean, because it's like it's funny because it's like we do when we look at ourselves on these like lists and competing with all these other CRM players, we get traffic and we get conversions. People like how we stack up, but it's just like, we're so much. It's just still like that's still not the only opportunity to kind of like hang our. But yeah, I agree. Like then I worry like just becoming too much of a small niche and not giving up that. It's like sacrificing some of that focus to like do this smaller thing that could end up becoming much bigger. But yeah, it's a bet. It's a little bit of a risk on kind of an insight we might have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's weird too, because one of the things that frustrates me is like when I look at, I will kind of go into a little bit of a clue that we have that gives me some ideas, but I'm constantly, it's like paper is still constantly a competitor of ours. It's not any other tool. It's not any other software. It's like you keep hearing people like, well, I write these things down on paper. We're still fighting against Post-it notes. We're still fighting against like, people talk about sheets of paper that they have, all of these contacts and their leads and what they have to do next. And it's just interesting. Like if that's our competition, a piece of paper,
it is, and it will always be.
Yeah,
probably. Paper's fantastic.
I know.
Paper's great for a lot of things, right? Like paper's great for the things it's good at. Yeah, I think this is the key, which is like everything's good at some things. Which things are you good at, basically, right? Like, paper's great if you're taking personal notes and you have a notebook and you're the only one and like there aren't that many things and it's like software's overkill then in some cases, right? But when you want to get a second person involved, paper doesn't work. Paper immediately stops working at that point. So, if you were going to go, and this is like way too specific, but if you were going to go after people who are transitioning from sole proprietorships to hiring their first person, like that could be a really lucrative, interesting market, but it's super narrow. But it might be actually narrow and wide at the same time. And then it's narrow in its specificity, but there might be millions of people going through that, right? So you could own that. You could own that, but you probably wouldn't want to, but you could. Like that's the mental challenge of all this, which is like, where do you want to go? And when I say you, I mean me and everyone. Where do you want to go as a product company and make like, where's your product want to go? A lot of companies want to go enterprise. Like that's where everyone wants to go. They want to go upstream enterprise. I find enterprise completely boring, so uninteresting. I'm going to be working on a post on this shortly as well. It's just like the least interesting thing would be to go for the enterprise. It's also the smallest in many ways, and there's a handful of companies that are really capable of paying those numbers that everyone's looking for. Whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I'm sort of rambling here. But it is so. I find it really challenging, intellectually stimulating to think this stuff through and try and figure out where you want to be, where are the bands, like where are the edges of your approach, and try it. We're kind of sort of doing that on the new Basecamp launch, focusing more on smaller businesses, on the business owners, speaking more to people running the business versus people managing projects in the business, and we're speaking to more situational. We're speaking more situationally and less feature parity kind of way.
Yep.
Speaking more about instead, like Basecamp, use Basecamp, or instead of doing this, here's how Basecamp will help you. Instead of doing this, not just like Basecamp does this, but instead of this, Basecamp does this, drawing more contrasts between things. So anyway, again, I'm rambling, but it's fun.
No.
It's going through my head on stuff that's on my mind about this.
Yeah. No, and it is. I mean, it's still a challenge. It's one of these things. It's a work in progress. It's still something that, we're kind of struggling with. And so I don't know. We have a couple ideas of. I mean, the thing that we're trying to do to solve one of these things is like figure out more of the context of what people are doing at the same time as like trying to purchase a high rise. Like, what are they involved in? What are, and can we kind of take part in that whole thing? And it's giving us some interesting ideas of, people who, like you mentioned, like going from a sole proprietorship to inviting that next person, like changing from their sole proprietorship to their LLC with multiple partners. Like, that's a good example of like, they're also doing this. Like, how can we take part in a process like that? To market ourselves, to bring up our story that we can help with this. There's some other ideas that we have that we think we've kind of identified people are doing at the same time that maybe we can also be part of. So we'll see what it turns out to.
Cool. Well, we're done.
Cool.
3:30.
All right. You good in another week?
Let me double check. Yep. So the following week I'm out because we have our company-wide meetup that week. But the week of the 17th I'm around. So we'll do it the 19th, next Wednesday.
Cool.
Cool, man. All right.
See everybody on the 19th. And yeah, watch for the Basecamp launch stuff. It's coming out soon.
Early next week. We'll be putting up an announcement, I believe, tomorrow morning, since we're rolling out to some short, or 10% of the people, if that's still what we end up doing. So
cool.
All right. Later on.
Later, man. Bye.